Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning here in Northern England. So in this video we're going to talk about Letecia Stauch. Her trial started yesterday, long awaited trial. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Alright, so in Letecia Stauch's trial, jury selection finished yesterday, and yesterday afternoon the trial proper commenced with opening statements. We heard some information both from the prosecution and the defence sides that we never heard before. It's harrowing how Gannon died at the hands of Letecia, and you might say, why are you saying he definitely died at the hands of Letecia? Because the defence aren't arguing. The defence aren't arguing otherwise. The trial is going to be a trial of the experts, a battle of psychiatrists and psychologists and lawyers, because Letecia has pled not guilty by reason of insanity. So although the prosecution have to prove that Letecia did these crimes, the defence isn't disputing it. They're saying that she was insane at the time the offence took place. Now, before we get into that, let me just play you one aspect of a video that Letecia, the night before Gannon's murder, put on social media. And that was of Gannon crying. He had apparently knocked over a candle and burnt the carpet, and Letecia was gaslighting him, saying that, you know, they'd get evicted if they didn't sell stuff to repair the carpet. And Gannon was crying, clearly upset, clearly in pain. Now, there was a part of that recording that we'd never heard before, and I want to play you it now.
On January 26, 2020, something bad happened inside the Stauch family home. Gannon suffered some burns. You'll learn this from a video recording this defendant made that night, January 26th. You'll hear her as she manipulated Gannon, putting guilt on him for some mistake that a child made. And in that recording, you'll hear Gannon say in his own words, "I'm just worried about my burns."
I just don't know what to do.
Well, devastating. Initially, I can't lie when the TMZ information...
Gannon, I promise this is the last time I'm going to ask you. I'm just freaked out, okay? Are you sure you didn't do it on purpose? Okay, we promise. We promise. Pinky promise. Okay, all right, so, listen. We're going to have to sell stuff to fix it, okay? So we figure out what we got to sell. We can sell the sofa. We can sell whatever, because we got to get it fixed. So, lady, don't be mad at us and kick us out of the house. Okay? You got it? You got it?
I'm just worried about my burns.
Okay, shh. Listen. So tomorrow...
I'm just worried about my burns. Now, if a child had knocked over a candle and burned himself, the age of 11, right, kids have accidents. Why wasn't Letecia seeking medical help for him? Why, instead, did she gaslight him? Did she blame him? It offered absolutely no support for his burns. And more to the point, why was she videoing all this? Why did she put this on social media? And then just 24 hours later or less, Gannon was dead. We heard in the prosecution's opening statement that Gannon was stabbed with a sharp object that has never been found 18 times. He was shot at 3 times. 2 bullets hit his pillow, but 1 hit his jaw and was lodged in his head at the time he was found. He'd also had his skull caved in with a blunt object. Really extreme force, extreme. So this little boy, this little 11-year-old innocent little boy, had been burnt the night before. Now, that could have been an accident or could have been Letecia, we don't know. but let's assume it was an accident. So he's already got burns. He's already suffering. He'd been up all night with stomach pains. I said in a recent live, I want to know if those stomach pains were natural, a childhood illness, a condition he had, or were they caused by Letecia hitting him in the stomach. But she kept him off school the following day, the 27th of January 2020. And by supper time, Gannon was dead, but she reported him missing. Then she made up a whole series of stories about where Gannon was and about what had happened. Her stories just twisted and turned as she realised that the police were collecting evidence, that they weren't believing her. She changed her story again and again and again. Gannon had been hidden, his body put in a suitcase and hidden somewhere off the beaten track, not too far away from their home in Colorado Springs. But eventually, Gannon was found over 1,000 miles away from his home in Pace, Florida. Letecia had driven a removals van, stayed in Florida for a little while, and had thrown the suitcase with Gannon's decomposing body over a bridge. And just by chance, construction workers found the suitcase. And that was a horrific discovery. By the time the suitcase and Gannon's body were found, though, Letecia had already been arrested. So if you want the backstory in more detail to this, then I did a recent live stream. I also did a live stream on the difference between pleading not guilty by reason of insanity and competence to stand trial. In short, competence to stand trial means how competent are you now to understand proceedings, like in the present moment. Do you understand what's going on? Do you understand that you are on trial for whatever crime you're accused of? Insanity, pleading not guilty by reason of insanity, is saying that you were insane, legally insane, at the time the crime took place. So a big difference there. So she's been deemed competent to stand trial, but she can still plead not guilty by reason of insanity because she can claim, although she's okay now, she was insane at the time the crime occurred. In this instance, 27th of January 2020. And I also did a live stream on dissociative identity disorder. So there's 3 lives there if you want to go and dig into what I've talked about in more detail. But for today, I want to explain the condition that Letecia is claiming that she had, and that is dissociative identity disorder. So I know a little bit about that. For those who don't know, I did work in psychology for over 20 years. I do have a PhD. I'm a doctor of psychology. So if you want to call me an expert, you can do. I'm not here as an expert, though. I'm just here as someone who walks their dogs through a field and talks about crime. But I do know a little bit about DID and the kind of related disorders, dissociative disorders, including DID, are in the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, that is published by the American Psychiatric Association and which is used in many countries, including my own here in the UK, to diagnose psychological and mental disorders, developmental disorders, etc. What is DID? I'm using easy to understand text here. This is from Mind, the mental health charity here in the UK, because it's got a good description of dissociative disorders and DID. So we're going to read this. And how does then this relate to Letecia? You may be diagnosed with a dissociative disorder if you have regular experiences of dissociation that are distressing. Now, look, we all dissociate. Daydreaming is a form of dissociation, like zoning out is a form of dissociation. But we can snap out of it. And some people with dissociative disorders, though, they can't snap out of it. They zone out, and in dissociative identity disorder, they even become a different person, a different personality, a different entity, if you will. And this is distressing. It can be dangerous. It can be risky. People who have dissociative disorders go through periods of amnesia where they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they've done. They can partake in a number of risk-taking behaviours and not even know about it. So, yeah, dissociative disorders are serious and they do affect your everyday life. You might have problems with relationships, with work, etc., because you're not there part of the time. But what is DID, dissociative identity disorder? If you have dissociative identity disorder, you will experience intense changes in your identity. You may feel like different aspects or states of your identity are in control of your behaviour and thoughts at different times. This can happen in various ways. So these are just some examples. It doesn't necessarily mean that every person with DID has every one of these things, but I think this is a good explanation. Each of your identity states may have different patterns of thinking and relating to the world. Your identity states may come across as different ages and genders. You may feel you have one main part of your identity that feels most like you. Some people call this the host identity. And then the other personalities, you might just have one or you might have several. They are alters or altered states of personality. Different parts of your identity may have memories or experiences that conflict with each other, because when you're in a different identity state or a different alter takes over your body, then you, the host, might not remember what went on. So if someone commits a heinous crime, dissociative identity disorder is one condition that might explain it. Or it could be one condition that you invent because you're faking it. Some people refer to these different parts of your identity as alters or parts, and to all of the parts together as a system. You might not feel like you have control over when different parts of your identity take over. You may experience amnesia, so loss of memory, which means you don't remember what happened when another part of your identity is in control. There are a number of other dissociative disorders, but this is the one that Letecia is claiming she has and she's been diagnosed with. Generally speaking, not in every single case, but in the vast majority of cases, DID develops from severe childhood trauma. And this is what the defence are claiming, that Letecia had a horrible, horrible childhood, full of abuse, lack of parenting, just really horrible childhood. And she developed, as some people do, a way of coping with that trauma in her life in the only way that a child can. And that starts by numbing out or zoning out. And eventually that develops in a young child as a personality split. And different alters take over when you feel threatened, under stress, in dangerous situations, in abusive situations. Your alters take over to protect you. It's a defence mechanism, if you will. Dissociation is a normal part of life. We all have the capability to dissociate. We all have the ability to zone out, to numb out when trauma happens. But only in a fraction of those cases does it become so severe that it develops into something like dissociative identity disorder. But this is what Letecia is claiming to have. And I was as mad as hell when her defence attorney said that it wasn't Gannon she was killing. It wasn't Gannon she was killing. She was killing the demons of her childhood. Well, how's that working out for you, Letecia? Did you kill the demons of your childhood? Did that happen? Did you successfully do that? Or did you kill an innocent 11-year-old boy? The latter, obviously. Now, as I said, I did a live stream recently. Letecia Stauch is DID her only defence, saying that I knew she'd been diagnosed with DID. Is that the defence she's going to take? And if so, let's explore it. And it does indeed, after the defence opening statement, seem that Letecia's defence is going to be DID. Well, how's that going to work out for her? Because an insanity defence, according to this paper here that I discussed in detail, so go and check this live out, an insanity defence is raised in less than 1% of felony cases and is successful in only a fraction of those. A criminal defendant who claims not guilty by reason of insanity asserts that he, or in this case she, committed the offence and asked the court to find her not culpable because of her mental state when the offence occurred. The legal approach used by defence in cases of not guilty by reason of insanity due to DID will be determined by the jurisdiction in which the case is tried. An alter in control approach considers the key issues as to which alter or personality was in control at the time of the offence. Well, you see, herein lies the problem for Letecia's defence, and I don't know how they're going to handle this, because you might say that an alter was in control when she murdered Gannon, and she had some kind of psychotic split, and an evil alter took over her body, like evil Letecia. Because, you know, Letecia's so good. She was a wonderful stepmother. Al, her then husband, the biological father of Gannon, and his little sister, trusted her with their care while he was working away in the military. She was a teacher. She was, you know, she was this beautiful, shining light member of her community. I don't know whether that's true or not. I doubt that it is, but hey, this is what the defence are claiming. But yeah, something just snapped in her and this evil alter took over and she murdered Gannon. Okay, all right. Well, when she came back to good Letecia, what happened then? And, you know, how long did this altered state last? How long was evil Letecia in the driving seat, so to speak? Because it took weeks. It took weeks for her to develop all of these lies. So was that good Letecia who was covering up for what evil Letecia did? Or was evil Letecia in the driving seat the whole time? Throughout the police interviews, throughout all the lies, throughout the TV interview, which was just bizarre, through hiding Gannon's body and then picking up Gannon's body again from where she dropped him, and then driving over 1,000 miles to drop him over a bridge somewhere in Florida. So was evil Letecia in control that whole time? Is that what the defence are going to argue? Or are they going to argue that good Letecia had no option but to cover up what evil Letecia did? If so, good Letecia committed crimes. Good Letecia didn't come clean. Good Letecia still carried on committing crimes. So if the jury find her not guilty by reason of insanity for murder, does it mean that they also have to find her not guilty by reason of insanity for all of it? Or would she do some time in a mental hospital and then serve a prison sentence? I don't know, because I don't believe that Letecia was evil Letecia at the time of Gannon's murder. I think she's faking this. I really do think she's faking this. But she's been diagnosed, so like I said, this is going to be a battle of the experts, of expert testimony. How the jury are going to take this, I've no idea. But what we do know is the vast majority of cases where a defendant has tried to use not guilty by reason of insanity because of DID, they have failed. They have failed because even if an alter has taken over your body and committed a crime, you are still responsible, because that alter, that alternate personality, might not be insane. So even if you were in an altered state of consciousness through DID, it still doesn't mean that you're insane. All right, guys, let me know what you think. Check out the 3 live streams that I did that give you a lot more information on this, and I'll see you in the next video. It's goodbye from Miss Tillington and Miss Cassie Springer. Bye, guys.